And that tinkering session mainly led to this talk. So I hope you'll enjoy it, because it was a pleasure to find that out and to write it. So here we are. Who this talk is for? Um, Basically, the if you write online, this can help you. This can be valuable to you. But mainly, it is for people who are content managers at any company. Like, companies use Ghost for their blogs very often. If you own your own newsletter, like if you have a Substack, and you're planning to move out of it into Ghost, for example, or if you're just a blogger, like a lot of blogs run on Ghost very successfully. And if you're a webmaster, it's you can learn something new as well as a pattern that is becoming very common. Cool. So if you read online, you probably bumped into Ghost. Like, Ghost is a CMS. It's so far it is small. It's a niche CMS. It's not a big CMS like WordPress, but it is grabbing a lot of attention, and especially from companies and people who are focused on performance. Ghost is used by at least these companies. So, like, if you go to Mozilla, DuckDuckGo, and Revolut, their blogs, they're all powered by Ghost. And the interesting thing about it is that all of them are either self-hosted, but they're all open source. Signal, Quillette, and the browser, they're also publications that run fully. Their whole business runs on Ghost. But why is that? Mainly, Ghost is open source and self-hosted, so a lot of companies like that. So they like to control the infrastructure they run on, and to have sovereignty about their full data, and not have it with someone else. It is also one of the breed of headless CMSs. So companies use it so they can provide the same content in both web and mobile, like without having much trouble with it, because the headless CMS mainly turns the CMS into an API for content. And it is fast, and rumor has it that it's very good for SEO. So that usually gets a lot of people excited about using Ghost. But what is the catch? Well, there's no big catch, but the thing is, the analytics that Ghost provides out of the box is very weak, and expectedly so, because this is a CMS. It's not an analytics system. And basically, what you get is just basic page views, like aggregate page views, and some details about open rates and who clicks what, and things like that. But it's nothing comprehensive. That is why Matomo is a great complement to Ghost, and why we are discussing this here. So let's take your Ghost website or newsletter to the next level by leveraging analytics. By linking Ghost, so the if you're familiar with Matomo, you're probably familiar with this page. This is the visitor profile, where you can see each user of yours and the actions they took on the website. So for this talk, we're going to use one example, and we're going to focus only on identifying this user through Ghost. So you can go from here to here. And the same pattern to do this, you can do with other things like the plans and custom dimensions and things like that you would have in Ghost in the same form. And you can transpose it back into the tag manager, and then into Matomo Analytics. So for this talk, this will be a very hands-on talk. So essentially, I'm just using the slides here to guide me, but we're gonna move out of the slides very soon, and we're gonna go into Ghost, into um, text editor, and so on. For this, you will need a Ghost instance where you have admin access, because you're gonna need to edit a lot of the settings of the website, including the theme. You're going to need a Matomo Tag Manager container, which I have open here, and I'm going to show you in a second. Matomo Analytics, this is also, it's optional, but it will serve the purpose of illustrating what we built today. And lastly, a text editor. Or if you're not that familiar with coding, or your JavaScript skills are very low, you can ask ChatGPT and Bard for help. because we're going to do some very basic coding here, but you can basically copy the code that I'm providing without much hassle. All right. Knowing Tag Manager does help, but it's not required. This is how it works. By default, Ghost does not expose any of the user data to the front end to prevent it from being scraped by other scripts that people might install on their websites, or by extensions that users might have when they're loading the website. So our first step will be to expose the user data in a controlled way so we can catch it in the data layer, our own data layer, and then pass it on to the Matomo analytics suite or to any other analytics that we want to run on top of this. So let's go. This is our plan. It has 4 steps. Now I'm gonna just get back to the slide just to mark each step. But essentially, we are off to the races in hands-on activity. So take notes, and later this is recorded as well, so later you can go at your own pace. So our first step will be to create the variables in the tag manager. Then number 2 is the one I want you to take away from this talk, because this is the one that is really valuable. We will prepare the data for the variable in Ghost and implement it. And then third, we're going to load the tag manager in Ghost with the variables loaded. And fourth, we're going to show how that worked. All right. So tag manager, I'm going to now switch the screen to the tag manager. If you ever used the Matomo Tag Manager, it looks like this. Like essentially you get to the getting started page, and then you see your tags, your triggers, versions, and all that. For this, we're going to create variables. So we go here. The one we're interested in is user email. I'm going to show you how to create it. So essentially you click on that button, and then you create a data layer variable. And that pretty much takes you to this page. This page, you have the type, data layer, a name, like DL for data layer, and then user email. Description, it's for documentation only, like you can put it however you want. And this one is important, the data layer variable name. This will be used in one of the scripts in a subsequent step. So please make sure you get this one correct with the next steps. All right, so we created this. Now, this is the interesting part, the one about how Ghost can expose this data to the tag manager. So now we're going to get into Ghost, into the admin panel. We're going to go through the themes, find the themes that we have installed, download them, and then change them. Bear with me. This is a default plain vanilla Ghost instance. Like I just put one I created 3 random users here just for the sake of this test. We're going to go into this cog at the bottom. Here, we're going to go into design and branding, customize, and here we are. So here is where you can change design and so on, like can change colors, like move things around and so on. But what we are really interested in is to change the theme here at the bottom right. Then it's not here yet. We need to go into this installed at the top right. And here's where the important files are. We're going to download this. This will give us a zip file with all the source files for the theme. I have it downloaded already, which is this. So this zip file, we're going to extract it and we're going to open. Once we open, we have all of these files. Like these HBS files are what goes to, and it's just a format that exists that is called handlebars. For our purpose, we are looking for the default handlebar. The default is the handlebar that informs the creation of every single page in the website. So all the others are just modifications on top of the default. So like the author page is how does the author profile page look like, and it's on top of it. The home page, same thing. But the interesting one for us is the default, because that underpins every single page there. So if we open this on a text editor, you're going to see that it is pretty much an HTML. Like it has all the telltale signs of an HTML. It has a head, it has all this stuff. Now, the things that are specific to handlebars are these. On curly brackets, you usually have like the instructions for how to render this page. Like this one, because it's the default, it is very simple. Like it just has all this stuff. So like you see, components of the footer, load them here. Body, load it here. So what we are going to do now is, because Ghost doesn't default by default expose the data of the member to the front end, we're going to first use the handlebars to get that data and expose it to the front end so the tag manager can consume it. And this script we're going to write here is simple, and we can put it anywhere as long as it's in the head of the handlebar, because it needs to load very early on when the page loads. I'm going to switch tabs because I have the script ready, and I'm going to walk you through it. So here it is. This is the same handlebar. Now at page 16, our script starts. So the script is essentially this. So what this script does is it creates this object called tracking details, initializes it empty, initializes the subscriptions also as an empty array, and by default, it says that the user is not identified, false. Now, the handlebar part is the interesting stuff here. When it is a member, then it's going to load the next part. Because we're not so interested on subscriptions, I'm going to skip this part, this for each. And this is what is interesting for us. So Ghost has these two variables that can be exposed through the handlebar, and we are going to expose them directly into this object, into these attributes of this object. So when you load the page, you would have this object, which has a member UID, which will be initiated with the member's UUID when he's identified, with the member's UUID and their email. And of course, because now the user is identified, we need to set the flag to true. Okay, if you've gotten this far, then you need to save this file, go back to here, save it, and compress it. Once you compress it, you can now go back to Ghost and upload the file that you just compressed. Go here and just drag it. Once it is here, you can set it to active. And that means that now the Ghost website is using this theme with the new code that you just added to generate the pages, meaning the pages should have this tracking object available. So now, next step, we're going to load the tag manager and inject the variables into the tag manager. So we're going to close here, close this. We go into code injection and we open this full screen. Full screen just so you can see it all. So here we have two little scripts. You can actually merge it into one, but for the sake of clarity, I decided to keep it separate. This first piece of code, you get it from the tag manager. Like we can get it now if you want. Here's the dashboard. When you have install code, this is the code you get to put in there. And below is also something you can ask ChatGPT or Bard for help with. You just prompt it to say, write me a JavaScript snippet that will initialize a few variables in my data layer, in my Matomo Tag Manager data layer. Variable user ID, variable user is logged in, variable user email. And then here's the part that you need to do it yourself because ChatGPT won't know. The objects that you defined in the script that we installed in the previous step, you need to map them to the right place. But once that is done, you can complete it and save it. Okay. So now we have first created the variables in the tag manager. So the tag manager is expecting those values to be populated. We have exposed the user data in a controlled way to the front end. And with this step of code injection, we have just mapped the data from the front end into the tag manager. So now the data layer is populated and it has the data to be used. This is just an explanation of that. If you want, you can also see the code in the QR code. And now the final step, which is to fire the tags in Matomo. So we go back to the tag manager. We go to tags. Like I have created this one, but you can just create another one, custom HTML. It is a very simple tag. As you can see, it's a custom HTML. I called it identifier because I'm focusing solely on identifying the user with an email. And here's the code for it. Basically, just call this method and say push this variable and use this data layer variable, which you can either type it, bracket, bracket, DL, user email, or you can call it from here. This is also why we configure it in the tag manager. So saving this, and we publish it. Publish this. Oh, sorry, wrong one. We create the new version and publish. So now we go full circle. We added the variable to the tag manager here. We exposed the data from Ghost to the front end there. We linked the front end data to the tag manager. So it is available here. And we created a tag to consume that data and fire it into the Matomo Analytics tag, which we will see here. So this is the Matomo Analytics that I have set up for that. I am going to pick this up. So this is the website that we were configuring just a minute ago. As you can see, I am not logged in. I am actually very logged out, but I'm going to click around just to generate some random data and so on. This is a click out. Actually, this is interesting. So now we should be able to see this. This is me. So you see, this is me. I clicked on myself here. Coming soon, clicked around. All good. Now let's go to the visitor log, just so we look at it. This is the latest, the one that I created. Yeah, my computer is 1 hour behind it. Like this is 1 hour ahead. So this is the click out that I did, ghost.org, and you can see that I'm not identified. But if we open here, we can see that our tracking details, they are here. And because I'm not identified, they're naturally set to false. There are no subscriptions. All good. So now we're gonna impersonate a user that is logged in just to show how it works and how it trickles down into Matomo Analytics. So back to Ghost. We're gonna go back. We're gonna go into members. And let's pretend to be Bob. This Bob has an email here, and I'm gonna get a link to impersonate him. This link is valid. Now, I'm gonna leave the console open, so we call this again. Welcome back, Bob. You have successfully logged in. I can click around and so on. Now the tracking details, moment of truth here. Everything is here. So like now I am identified. I have this member email, member UID, and of course I don't have any subscriptions attached to it, but you can add your subscriptions to it. So now that it is there, let's look at it in Matomo. This is the session that we had where I clicked out and showed you. So let's reload. And now I have a new session that I started and I'm identified here. And yep, that is me. So with this, we conclude this, and we now actually, this data, we can now start configuring all the fun things in Matomo, like goals, funnels, yeah, and start having superior insight on my usage, like I can figure out which posts drive new subscribers, which posts convert people into paid subscribers, and things like that, which you couldn't do that without Matomo. And even with just putting Matomo there, you wouldn't be able to stitch it together very nicely. Then you can break things down also between plans and so on. So that is a pretty good add to the thing. All right, I will now look at the chat for questions. Yes, so I have one question here. You may use Matomo configuration variable to push the user ID variable instead of using the custom HTML. Yes, you can do that. Like that is simpler, but it's less transparent. So I wanted to be more transparent. So if you wanted to use to edit it or add anything that you want, you can also do it. But yeah, so just to illustrate, the question was, instead of using this as a custom HTML, you can use as a Matomo Analytics tag, which you can do. So like you can use this one. Cool. Any more questions? I'm looking at the chat a bit ahead of time. Hope I didn't go too fast. Yeah, there are no questions here. So if there are more questions, or if you're watching this after the session, you can point at the QR on the left to see a small write-up of this presentation. So you can follow step by step without having to go back and forth in the video. Or on the right, you can reach out on Twitter. Thank you all. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Fabio. I will close the session and close the recording. Thank you.
Thanks.